guys, and welcome to my channel, Davina's Faith. It's Davina here, and today I'm going to give an advice, dating advice, for how to break up with someone. So if you're interested in this, then stay tuned. Okay, guys, so one of my subscribers had actually sent in or left a comment under a video asking for advice for breaking up. So I decided to do this video. It may be helpful for a few other of you guys. So yeah, one of my subscribers, she feels as though she is dating someone exactly, but wanna get breakup advice. Fruit isn't aligning, and you feel like this person isn't the one. So hey, so I'm gonna give you guys a background story of someone that I dated, and they seemed like a good catch, but I later was led to break up with them. I broke up with them, okay? Because I was like, oh, did I ever break up with anybody? Like, the last few people really broke up with me, but there was one person that I dated some years ago, not too long ago, and I actually broke up with them. Okay, you guys, so I'm going to give you guys a little story time. This is going to be a story time and advice video. So, some years ago, be getting oily up here. I was dating this guy. I had met this guy at work, and this was like an odd job for me. Um, it was outside of my career, but he was in a higher position than I was at that job. I was just a regular working at that job. I just really needed a job. I had just moved from New Jersey, and wasn't expecting to date anybody. I actually didn't want to date anybody because this wasn't too long after a breakup that I had. And you guys already know about this breakup. So me and this guy, we started dating. So when I saw him, I didn't think anything of it or anything like that. But the people that were at the job, our coworkers, were like, "Oh, you guys, you're single, he's single. Maybe you guys should date." And we were just cool at first or whatever. Found out that he was also a Christian, a believer in Jesus Christ, and yeah, he seemed like a nice person. So he had invited me out to lunch or breakfast one day. So I went on the date with him. Everything was cool. He was very, very different from a lot of the other guys that I dated. He was from the suburbs. I'm from the hood, as you guys may know. I have mentioned this in other videos, but not that I didn't come from a good background. I did. Um, a lot better than some other people that come from the hood, um, you know. But yeah, we had two different backgrounds. So he grew up in the suburbs um, with an array of people. I grew up in the hood, what we call the hood, with predominantly black and Hispanic people, um, but mainly black people, like 80% black, 20% Hispanic. And yeah, so we had two different backgrounds, different likes and everything. So, but we did have some things in common. But I really, what had made me gravitate towards him to keep talking to him to see if I should date him and all of that, and to think that he was a good catch was that he was a nice guy, and he was a lot different than everybody else I had dated. I felt that since he was very different from a lot of guys I dated, that maybe this might be a good thing. And since he was a nice guy, like he wasn't, a roughneck. Not that I dated all roughnecks, but he wasn't a roughneck, and he wasn't a guy. Like he seemed like a guy that wanted to be in a committed relationship, and he wanted to get married. He wanted to have kids. Once we started talking, I knew that. I felt like, yeah, this would be a good idea. So yeah, that's what I went off of. But he was very different from me, and outside of him just being slightly different from me, um, I always felt different from the people that was around me, like my family members and stuff. Lots of my family, but there was also some things that I felt were kind of weird about him too, honestly. Yeah, as we started like dating more, I think even before I became his girlfriend, I did visit his church one time, and he told me about his background, like he grew up as a Christian, but he's a Seventh Day Adventist, and some people might separate SDAs or Seventh Day Adventists from other Christians. I could just consider myself a regular Christian. My background has been apostolic, like in the apostolic evangelistic arena of um, the word that they call it. But I'm just a believer in Jesus Christ, as I call myself, believer in Jesus Christ who believes in the whole Bible. But I definitely can relate a lot to the apostolic, so I see why I'm in the church background that I am in now because of what apostolics believe in. We're not going to get into all of that right now. But yeah, I did eventually find out that he was an SDA, a Seventh day Adventist. So, boom. I had visited his church one time or whatever, and I knew like he was a vegetarian. So he grew up a vegetarian, but then he had started eating meat again. I'm not going to tell his business, and I'm not going to tell his name anyway, but he did eat a little bit of meat, but he grew up as a vegetarian because most Seventh day Adventists believe in not eating meat. So yeah, most of them are vegetarians or vegans. So he grew up as that, and he also wanted to become a vegan. Um, but yeah, he did eat meat here and there. Um, as he used to not eat meat at all, but then he started to transition to eating meat a little bit here and there. So yeah, I knew that. I visited his church one time because he invited me to church. So I visited his church once before we became boyfriend and girlfriend, and the church was pretty nice. Like it was multicultural and mixed race. So it wasn't just black people or just white people. It was black people, white people, um, probably Asian, Hispanic. So I really did like that. And then, after service, they would have a little lunch, and they also go to church on Saturdays rather than Sunday. So that was different too. I'm a regular Christian, or a you know part of the regular background. I don't know, but I'm a Christian. I go to church on Sundays. Not that it's a big thing, but SDAs believe in going to church on Saturday to uphold Sabbath. Okay, so yeah, go to church on Saturday, and yeah, after church, we have little lunch, dinner type of situations, and they have different vegetarian meals like PB&J, yogurt, rice, beans, and everybody was so nice. Oh, also they had lots of a lot of the congregation was it South African or no, not East African. I think they were South African. A big part of their church were African. So I like that it was very diverse, and I like that everybody was so friendly. So I did notice that the first time I visited, and I remember what I had on. We had actually got on the bus to go there, and then so boom, through that where we're still talking, he gets to meet my mom and my sister. Then he eventually comes to visit my home and get to meet all of my family, like all my siblings. To meet everybody that I was close with during that time, basically, that lived where I was living at. So yeah, once I saw that, I felt like I should date him because he was a nice guy, and I did like him. So we became boyfriend and girlfriend. We became boyfriend and girlfriend. Everything is going okay or whatever. And yeah, it seems like he'll be a good catch. Like he wasn't physically my type. He did have like some people might feel like he wasn't that cute. Like kind of had like a little bit of a geeky type of look, but I he just seemed like he just was like a guy that she would treat someone really good, and I really liked that. I really liked that. So we keep dating, and eventually I meet his parents. His mom and his stepdad. That went well. I really liked his grandmother. His grandmother was so sweet. I loved meeting her. And yeah. Um, but there were some things that happened in the relationship that I did not like. His ultimate best friend was a girl, and I was kind of iffy about that because in the past I knew guys that were close to women, and they lied about their relationships with women, like saying that this person is this person and they're not that person. Or I had experienced that from a previous relationship where one of my first boyfriends, he said that girl was his, some girl was somebody else and she wasn't, but young stuff. So I wasn't completely comfortable with that, but he was like, yeah, you're gonna meet her. I never, to this day, I never met the girl. I did speak to her on the phone a few times and saw pictures of her, of that. But yeah, eventually I became a little bit more okay with it because he told me that I should be okay. That was strike number one, you know. Not that everything that you're gonna be okay with everything in the beginning, you know. You have to use discernment. But yeah, that was like strike number one, okay. Um, Another thing that I didn't like that was like a kind of deal breaker was that he really liked heavy metal music. Now he was black too, like I am black, you know. I'm predominantly black. He was predominantly black as well, but he loved heavy metal music, and I'm not a big fan of heavy metal, especially since I'm a Christian. It has nothing to do with, not necessarily anything to do with me being a black person, but it just was like I felt like heavy metal music was like kind of evil, and he really liked the heavy metal music. Yeah, so yeah, I I kind of was uncomfortable with that. So that was like strike number two when I found out that he really enjoyed heavy metal, but he wouldn't play it out loud when it was just me and him, like, or anywhere that we went, he would just have his headphones on and listen to it. He did try to get me to listen to it a couple of times, but I really am not a fan of heavy metal, and I kind of feel like if you're a Christian, that you shouldn't listen to heavy metal. That's a whole another thing because y'all might be like, oh, nobody don't have any business listening to rap and stuff. I don't really listen to any music really anyway. But yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of heavy metal, and I just feel like heavy metal, it just brings a certain vibe or a certain atmosphere that isn't good, full of like negativity because they're like screaming and saying different crazy things. I mean, they could say any, like, he did show me a Christian group that did heavy metal, but it's like just the vibe that it gives is just not coming off as positive or, you know, uplifting. Not that every music, just a, you have a soft slow song or you could have an upbeat song, but it didn't fit any of that. It was just like anger. That's what I got from that type of music. He was never really angry. I never really got to see him really angry, only a few times. But yeah, I didn't like that, so that's two strikes. And then SDA, that raised my eyebrow. I didn't really know what, before dating him, I didn't really know what SDA was. But and it's, you know, if somebody is a SDA, that's your choice. But as far as what I believe in, that could be, that was a strike too because yeah, because of who I am. You guys know, if you guys have watched my channel, you know that I am a prophetic person. And I'm not saying that all SDAs don't believe in this, but his particular church didn't believe in the prophetic outside of anything outside of the Bible. So they didn't believe in people prophesying or, you know, speaking in tongues, or, you know, they would clap their hands, but, you know, they still sung hymns. So they didn't sing any like updated modern songs, and they didn't believe in prophesying. Like, he didn't believe in dreams and dream interpretation. So that was like a red flag for me because I'm a pretty prophetic person. You know, don't have any title, anything like that. Um, but I am a prophetic person. I am a person that dream, and during that time, I was in the beginning phase of doing dream interpretation. So I was still learning dream interpretation, but I was um, advanced enough to help others with the basics during that time. So that was like another problem. So that's three strikes right there, right? You know, as we started to date more and more, I started to think to myself, like, hey, you know, if, because I saw him as a potential husband, because you know, he was a good guy. So I'm like, you know, if we do get married, um, I would more than likely join his church, which I really did like his church. The people were all really friendly, and I did like all the people that I met there. But I'm like, and they were like one of the most friendliest churches I ever been to, so I really enjoyed that. But I just thought like, hey, if I do marry him, um, I have to think about a few things like, they don't believe in those things that I believe in, and I'm not going to be able to grow in my gifting like that, and or to be able to express my gifting if they don't believe what I believe in. And then also, I think that they didn't believe in women speakers either. And I'm a woman. I can't help the gift that I have. I didn't ever see any woman like um, be up in the by the pulpit. Maybe a woman like during like the Bible study sessions would say something, make a comment or something, but I didn't see any women speakers at all. So that was another thing I thought about too. And then if I'm married to you and you're not willing, like he wasn't willing to compromise at all about the female best friend situation. Wasn't saying don't be best friends with her, but I wanted some boundaries because he had set up a date without me knowing. Not a date, but they set up something where they were going to go out of town together and go to this baseball game, some type of athletic game together. And he didn't tell me until after he had planned it, so I wasn't comfortable with that. I was already trying to see, trying to become more comfortable or get an understanding of it, and then of that, and then he did that. So yeah, I really didn't like that. So I had to think about that. Like I'm not comfortable with that, and yeah, he's not really to make any type of compromises. Okay, nothing at all. He kept on saying, "I'm gonna meet her. I'm gonna meet her," or y'all gonna meet basically. And we never did meet. I guess because I broke up with him, but he did introduce me to his family. I did get to visit his family, and his family was pretty nice. But I know I'm all over the place, but yeah. So those reasons that I just named are reasons how I knew that I eventually came to the conclusion that I didn't want to really be with him anymore. Um, During this time too, and this was during the time of me. I was getting ready to move to Ohio with my family. I was having so many dreams related to him, and it was just like all negative, bad dreams. And I just felt in my spirit that I need to break up with him. So I'm like, oh my God, I need to break up with him. And every time I got to it, I just became very nervous to do so. But I had finally came to it, and I broke it off with him, and it wasn't easy. So yeah, I just told him I didn't go into detail about it because I didn't want him to become offended. But I just basically I did learn a lot from that relationship, and I do, I'm kind of happy in the way that I did experience that for multiple reasons. But I just had to tell him like, hey, I didn't go into detail, but I was like, hey, I feel like God's leading me to break up with you, and he asked me like, can I ask you why? And then I was like, I said something along the lines of something that you're doing, or God's going to tell you that. I can't remember. If I remember exactly along the lines of what I said, I'll put it on the screen. But, basically, I was led to break up with him, or felt led to break up with him at the time because of, something that he was attached to secretly that he didn't ever like. It was something else too that I believe that God reveals to me, but I never told him about it or told anybody else, and I'm not going to even name it. But something in secret too that God revealed to me. So I had broken off with him, and I basically told him like, hey, you know what it is, or something along those lines, and just left it at that. But yeah, like being the spiritual, I had to consider that. And we were both Christians, but he just um, saw the prophetic very difficultly, very differently than I did, and I couldn't have that. Like somebody not believe at all anything that I believe in or whatever. Like strongly don't believe in it, so I can't do that. And then no budging on the friendship thing. So yeah, I was glad to break up with him during that time. And yeah, it wasn't easy. But this video is not just about my story. So that was my story of how I broke it off, and it was something else I wanted to share about when we were dating, in our courtship. We didn't have sex or anything like that. We kissed, but nothing physical ever happened between me and him. That's one story of how I was dating someone, and we actually were both Christians, but I was led to break it off with him. Those are basically, in a nutshell, the reasons. And if I could give anybody any advice if they feel led to break off with someone, is you definitely want to pray before you do anything. You want to make sure this is God's will.